The movie begins with the protagonist getting a persistent knock at the door. When the man stands up, 2 huge scars appear on his upper back. Behind the door is the landlady Ruth, and the man knows without a word what she wants. He goes back into the room, opens a suitcase with a lot of old and new bills, antique gun, and black and white photo. Jack gives the woman a few dollars and asks what date and day of the week is today. Obviously, the man hasn't been out in a while. Jack gets dressed and goes to the church to play bingo. After finishing, the man walks to an alley where Jeremy Young is waiting for him, an intern at the local hospital. The man gives the guy some bills, takes a package out of the trunk, and talks about the next delivery. Back in his apartment, Jack tucks the bundle into the refrigerator. There's a knock on the door. A young, nervous-looking girl stands on the doorstep. She stares for a few moments at her host and runs away. There's another knock at the door. 2 thugs, Steve and Shorty, brazenly announce that they want Jeremy and that the old man will help them find the guy. One of the intruders pulls out a gun, but Jack immediately tosses it aside. Shorty punches the host and gets some change. Steve shoots Jack in the arm and jumps pepper spray in his eyes. But the host only wrinkles his nose and throws both villains out the door. He sits down on the bed and clenches his bleeding hand into a fist. Jack keeps coming to the same Times Square cafe, where he is served by a waitress, Kara, who really likes the man. She asks the customer about his injured hand and bruised face and awkwardly tries to ask him out on a date. But Jack replies that he will sleep in tonight, as usual. That evening, the man gets a call from his ex-girlfriend Jillian, with whom he has a strong mutual dislike. Jillian shocks Jack. It turns out that their mutual daughter Andrea came to his apartment today. The woman explains that the daughter is currently drinking at a bar. She asks him to pick up the girl and take her home. The man agrees, adding lastly that Jillian should never call him again. Jack goes to the bar and finds out from the bartender that Andrea was here and left with Tim in the phone book. Jack finds Dell's address and goes to his house. Tim turns out to be a 35-year-old man. Jack has to press the landlord to call for a well-tipsy Andrea. Jack, seeing that his daughter is fine, wants to leave, but Andrea persistently suggests they talk in the cafe. In Times Square, Kara serves the couple. While the girls chat, Jack tries to see if his daughter has the same scars on her back as he does. Taking a bite, Andrea asks to stay with her father for a couple of days, and he agrees with a sigh. Waking up in the morning, Jack removes the bandages, the wound underneath completely healed. He goes to a cafe and orders tea, but behind Jack's back, an old man in a hat appears out of nowhere and stares at the man, making him feel very uncomfortable and leave without waiting for his order. The old man immediately disappears. Jack goes to meet Jeremy and sees the guy being grabbed by Steve and Shorty, shoved into their car and driven away. Jack takes the car from the mailman and rushes off in pursuit. Soon he arrives at the building where the thugs are torturing the guy. Steve pounces on the man with a hammer, but Jack overpowers the villain and squeezes out one of his eyes. He then knocks out Shorty and frees Jeremy. Jack leaves the intern at the ambulance, takes the package from his car, puts it in the refrigerator at home, and goes to bed. When he wakes up in the evening, the man picks up his daughter and they go to church together to play bingo. Andrea is sure it's a waste of money. Jack, however, replies that he is just playing out of boredom. From the church, the two go straight to Times Square, where a bald bandit named Larry is waiting for them. He distracts the waitress by knocking over a tray of dishes. He discreetly pours poison into Jack's water glass and quickly leaves. When Kara brings the drinks, Andrea invites her to go to bingo with them, after which she happily tells her father that she has arranged a date with him. The old man in the hat reappears. Andrea sees him too, much to her father's surprise. Jack warns that this grandfather is very dangerous and should not be approached, much less talked to. On his way home, the man feels suddenly weak. In the apartment, he hears a noise in the street and notices 3 bandits arriving in the yard. Jack walks out into the street with a wobbly gait and faints right at the feet of the thugs. The bandits decide that the man died of poison. They bind him with heavy chains and are about to throw the body into the water. Suddenly, the dead man opens his eyes. Steve and Shorty see that both men have gone underwater and run to the car out of fear, hoping that Larry will surface soon, while Jack is pulled to the bottom by chains. Suddenly, Jack climbs out of the water, pulls off his chains, and drags the dazed Shorty out of the car. The man rips out a piece of the bandit's throat and devours his flesh with gusto. And Steve runs away in a panic. Jack returns home, looks in the refrigerator, but his attention is drawn to Andrea, fighting an overwhelming urge to devour his own daughter. He insults the girl and yells at her to get out. Andrea leaves the apartment, and the landlord tries to hold back the crazy urge to attack the first person he meets. Later, he hears the landlord arguing with the rude tenant because he keeps playing loud music. As soon as the woman leaves, Jack pounces on his neighbor, devours his body, and throws the waste into a dumpster. In the morning, he goes to church and plays bingo to distract himself. It's not helping. So he heads to a bar to get drunk, even though he hasn't been drawn to alcohol in years. However, Jack is really pissed off by the sounds of the jukebox. On the street, he notices two suspicious guys with cigarettes and is looking for an excuse to pounce on them. Jack throws a $100 bill on the ground, but one of the guys picks it up and returns the money to the owner. At this point, an old man in a hat watches the man from the car. In a dark alley, Jack pushes a big guy with his shoulder on purpose. However, the big man himself politely apologizes to the man. Jack feels weak and leans on the fence. He feels nauseous when three men walk by him. Offended by the sight and demanding he give up everything he has, Jack sees that two of them are teenagers and the third with a gun in his pocket is much older. Soon the man returns home and tries to remove the bullet from his chest with a kitchen knife. He listens to the answering machine, where a gangster with a French accent states that he killed Jillian and kidnapped Andrea. The villain promises to massacre his daughter if Jack doesn't show up at the docks at midnight. A man goes to Times Square and sees Kara being harassed by her ex-boyfriend near a cafe. Jack goes outside to deal with it and is surprised to see that this Tim in front of witnesses he can't eat the guy and just gets between him and Kara. Tim starts beating Jack up, but Jack doesn't react in any way and then spits blood in the guy's face. Tim decides to get away from the psycho by grabbing the keys to the car he and Kara shared. Jack walks the girl home for the first time on the way, telling her that he has changed about 50 professions in his life. Suddenly, he feels very hungry and urgently returns to his apartment with shaking hands. Jack takes out the blood bag from the screwdriver Jeremy gave him, but accidentally tears it and greedily licks the blood off the floor. In the morning, the man goes to his daughter's house, but sees no one there except an old man in a hat. Jack comes to the club to the coolest mobster in town, Tom, but he is informed that the gangster killed his son Alex, now out of charge. Jack worked as a bodyguard for Tom and the mobster for a long time. Died almost immediately after the man quit his job. Jack asks about Andre's kidnapping, but Alex replies that he had nothing to do with it, and he's done with crime in general. Jack goes to Times Square, where in the first empty hall he sees the body of the murdered manager. The man makes his way to the second room, where the thugs are already waiting for him, and Kara is quietly begging for help. Jack goes to the restroom. One of the villains comes in after him. After a couple minutes, only Jack comes out, pulling an ice pick out of his back. He tells the car to sit down at a table and asks for a ride in his car. Another thug comes up to the table, shoots Jack in the forehead, and finally pisses the man off. He kills all the villains, devouring the most appetizing, leaving only Steve alive to find out from him where Andrea is being held. Jack asks Kara to give him a ride home with the bandit in the trunk, promising $1 million as a reward. The girl gets behind the wheel and the man removes the bullets from his head, since leaving them in will give him a severe migraine. Arriving at the place, Jack opens the suitcase with Kara's reward. As the man pulls Steve into the apartment, the girl is surprised to see 400-year-old wine and a picture of Jack from World War I. She doesn't understand how this is possible, but the hole in her companion's head will make her believe anything. Jack says he himself doesn't know how old he is. However, he is known from the Bible as Cain. He is condemned to live with the life of an immortal cannibal as punishment for killing his brother Abel. Jack goes into the bathroom to see a tied-up Steve, who swears that he's just a small 6 and has no idea where Andrea has been taken. Jack spares the fat man and goes out into the hall, where French gangster Vini is already waiting for him. The thug pulls a gun on his master and leads him to the doorstep. But, of course, half a minute later, Jack returns alone. The man gobbles up the gangsters, takes the bag with the money and a few things, realizing that he will not return to this apartment and rushes to the hospital to see Jeremy. The guy tells that he borrowed a large sum of money for training from a gangster named Alex. Jack decides to return to the club and again asks Kara to help, promising to give her all the money he has left. On the way, the man asks the girl to take care of Andrea, who is left without a mother, as he is a bad father. Jack bursts into the club and is shot in the stomach with a shotgun. This doesn't deter the man in the slightest. He kills all the thugs inside and enters Alex's office. Jack hears crying, knocks over a closet and sees a door behind it. In a small room sits a bound, beaten Andrea. A camera stands across from her. The poor girl can't even open her eyes. Her father takes her in his arms and carries her to Kara's car. He asks the waitress to take Andrea to the hospital, stating that he himself is staying here. Jack returns to the building and breaks Alex's leg. The mobster confesses that they wanted to secretly kidnap Andrea to record a video of the girl's beating and send it to Jack so he can finally feel the pain since the bullets aren't doing him any harm. Alex guesses that Jack killed his father and decides to get revenge on him. The guest explains that he killed Tom since he didn't want to let him get away from him. Jack blames Alex since he's the reason he snapped and started eating people again. He threatens to eat the gangster alive. At that moment, the old man in the hat reappears. Jack becomes enraged as he is only going to eat the pathetic criminal. The old man didn't show up when Jack wiped out 1,000 people as a pharaoh in ancient Egypt and staked hundreds of people in Romania. This old man is death itself, who cursed a man for nothing during his life for killing his brother Abel. Jack had committed many atrocities in his long life, hoping that death would take him, but it never came. And now the old man just continues to stand there and stare at the man in silence. Kara runs in and asks for help putting Andrea in the car and taking her to the hospital. Before it's too late, Jack is torn between saving the girl and killing the mobster, but still chooses his daughter and rushes to her for the last time, telling Alex that soon the bandit will be able to see the old man. After a few moments, death appears in front of Alex. How was the movie? He never died. Share in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. Thank you all for watching. See you soon.